Hey guys, welcome. Uh, Sorry I'm not live, but at least this time you guys can see me. At least I got the video working, so it's a step forward. Next time, I promise we'll get it all together, and I can interact with you, and you can ask me questions, and hopefully we will get it together eventually. So thanks for your patience. And first off, of course, I wanted to say that my heart and prayers go out to those in um, in Florida and any place else in Irma's path. We're thinking about you. I'm sending you love and all of our support. And just know that that I'm sending prayers and love to those who are in the path of any danger. So thinking about you. You're not alone, and we love you. Okay. So it just seems lately there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of chaos and a lot of turbulence and things, and it's easy to fall into a state of anxiety and stress. I'm human, it happens to me too. And one of the things that I've learned is that first is to recognize that I'm sort of spinning out and I'm coming from a place of anxiety and stress. And once you realize that you're sort of spiraling into a state of anxiety and stress, one of the things that really, really helps me is to drop my energy down into my solar plexus. So what does that mean? It means if you could sort of imagine that all of the energy of you into a ball, and you just imagine that you're a ball of light, and you drop all of that energy and focus right down into your solar plexus. So it really helps. This is I had some dance training in my younger years, and that's what I did to. That's what dancers do to find their center and to find their balance. But I have found from a spiritual standpoint that dropping all of my energy and all my focus right down into my solar plexus, one, calms me immediately and helps me feel more grounded. So if you find yourself spinning out, it's a really great idea to just take your energy, drop your focus right down into your solar plexus, and that will help get you out of an immediate state of sort of spinning out or feeling out of control and anxious. The other thing that I'd like to remind everyone is that intuition is meant to protect us. That's why we have it. It's an instinct, and it's designed to keep us safe. So it's really important during these times to listen and pay attention to the messages you're getting and the sort of the promptings or instincts you're having. Just pay close attention to those things. If something's nagging at you to do something, please do it. Most of you have probably heard me talk about one of my favorite books is written by Gavin de Becker. It's called The Gift of Fear. I think it's a classic. It's a must read for everyone, especially women. But it talks about the equation of using intuition to keep yourself safe and not override the messages that you're getting. So we all tend to want to override messages that we're getting because sometimes they're inconvenient. But if you are getting messages that involve your safety, please pay attention to those and remember that that's your guides and those are the people who are trying to protect you and keep you safe. So please pay attention and listen to all of those instincts that are coming and telling you to do things, even when they seem inconvenient. Trust me, every time I've not listened to those messages and brushed them aside, the inconvenience factor grew, it multiplied. So take those warnings when you get them, and do pay attention to those things just in order to keep yourself safe. And like I said, if you have not read The Gift of Fear, I highly recommend it. Especially all women should read this book. Okay. So when it comes to intuition, and that was sort of the first thing I was going to talk about. I'm going to keep it short and sweet tonight. But I did want to give you 3 tips on improving your intuition. And this is a great segue from what I was just speaking about. And the first tip that I have, the first thing that really, really changed the way I interact with intuition, and my students do too, hopefully, is that if you feel like you need to argue with it or push it away or in some other way reject it, that's a good sign it's not coming from your own logic, that it's actually intuition. So just by the mere fact that you want to argue with it is a good sign that it's probably truly intuition. We all do it. It's human nature. I don't know why exactly, but I have found that we all tend to do it. And I know better, and sometimes I still have that urge to argue with something. So if you get some intuition and you think that can't possibly be right, that doesn't make any sense, it's silly, all of the millions of reasons we come up with to argue with it, just learning to recognize that you're doing that will help you in recognizing that it may be true intuition. So tip number one is to pay attention to those things that you're wanting to resist or argue with or push away, because there very likely are truly intuition. So tip number 2 is that those thoughts that fly in out of nowhere, when you're doing the dishes, when you're taking a shower, when you're driving your car, sort of goes along with the same concept that if you are busy doing something else, then maybe you're not in a state of resistance. So if you're not, if your mind's preoccupied with driving or doing some mundane task, your intuition can sort of sneak in around your defenses. So pay attention to those things that are popping in out of nowhere. Like I said, especially in the shower or doing dishes or while you're driving, those kinds of things are usually fairly accurate too. You'll discover that they're fairly accurate. So do pay attention to those things that are kind of jumping in spontaneously. Again, remember that if you feel like arguing with it or feel like it's dumb or can't be right, just really do at least honor it, write it down in your journal, and just start paying more attention to those kinds of insights that are coming in for you. Okay, and the third way is this I do all the time, and have done it with my kids since they were young, but I find silly ways to practice every day. I'm constantly practicing. So it could be, I talk about this in my classes sometimes. It could be just imagining before you go to work what a coworker will be wearing, or before you go to the grocery store, just sit down for a minute and see if you can visualize somebody that you may encounter at the grocery store. Not somebody one of the clerks obviously, but somebody, just see if you can visualize somebody that you may encounter while you're at the store. My daughter and I were discussing the other day how hurricanes are named, and I was explaining the male, female, how they switch, and then they go through the alphabet. So she actually thought she was making a joke when she said that the next hurricane would be named Jose. So she turned out to be right. So one of the things I like about that approach is that there's no pressure to get things right because nobody's watching. It's only between you and spirit. Nobody else knows you're playing these games. And so you don't feel a lot of pressure. Because when you're trying too hard and you're feeling a lot of pressure, that's when it's harder to actually receive. It's almost like you're throwing up a wall. So, so finding fun ways that maybe, like I said, nobody else knows you're even doing, and there's no pressure. It's just fun. It actually adds some fun to your errands. At least it helps me because I'm not a fan of the grocery store. So it does make going to the grocery store a little more fun. And we've even done it where going through like a drive-through or something, from the time we talk to the person at the speaker is try to guess what that person looks like before we get up to the window. So I'm constantly playing those kinds of games and trying to figure out what somebody's going to wear. I've been in conferences. I'm a lot of fun in conference. I've been in conferences where I kept trying to match the person's clothes. So I kept wearing the same colored shirt as this one person in class until he figured out what I was doing, and then wore a striped shirt. And I couldn't play that one. But there's tons and tons of ways to practice every single day. And you can make it fun. You can make it game-like. And the more you can be playful with intuition, the better off you're going to be as far as developing it. Because spirit has a delightful sense of humor. Spirit doesn't take itself as seriously as we humans do. So the lighter you can be, it also raises your vibration level to be light and playful. The more you can do that, the more easily you can tune into those higher frequencies when you're trying to work with intuition. So that's it for tonight. Thank you guys. Like I said, next week, hopefully I will get it together and we'll actually be live. But for tonight, thank you.